Good morning students, welcome to the physics class. Today we are dealing with mechanical properties of solids. Solid, we know it's one of the three states of matter. Matter means everything that around us. Matter is composed of atoms and molecules. Broadly, matter is classified as solid, liquid and gas. We know. From our childhood itself, we are taking the example of ice for explaining these three states of matter. If we have an ice cube, so it's solid form, it having a definite shape, it having a definite size. Okay, so a solid can be represented by an ice cube. Then, when it is heated up, the atoms or molecules gets kinetic energy, and the kinetic energy of the atoms or molecules, that is more than the intermolecular force of attraction between the atoms or molecules, then what happens? It melts. The ice melts to water or a liquid form. That represents the second state of matter, a liquid. It has no any definite shape, but it has some volume. Then again we heat it up, what happens? It vaporizes. So vapor or gas is the third state of matter. Okay. Then some other states of matter are there. Then one is the plasma state, and it is the ionized state, and the fifth state is this core gluon plasma state. This ionized plasma and this core gluon plasma, which is the state at high temperature, and this is the plasma state is common in stars also. And the fifth state of matter is Bose-Einstein condensate, and the seventh state is fermionic condensate. These two states are the present only at a very low temperature or below 1 K. This is about the different states of matter. And come to this diagram. What are the differences in these two diagrams? So here it's a pattern. It's a regular pattern, regular arrangement of particles or atoms. But here there is no such regular arrangement. Here also there is no such regular arrangement. Here the interatomic forces are very strong. Here it's medium. It's less than the solid, but here the interatomic forces are very minimum. So that here the particles can vibrate from its own positions, but here the particles can move around. Here it has moved in and around of that medium. So we are summarizing the properties of solid, liquid and gas. Here it is the strongest internuclear or interatomic force. Here it's weak, intermolecular or interatomic force is weak, but in this case it's very minimum. And this solid having a definite shape and having a definite size, but here there is no definite shape but have a definite volume. Here it does not have a definite shape, size and volume. So the liquid and gases together we known as fluids that we will study in the coming chapters. Today our discussion is about this solid. So it's having strongest intermolecular forces and having definite shape and definite size. So it's a rigid body. Then coming to solids, it can be classified as crystalline solids and amorphous or glassy solids. Crystalline solids or amorphous or glassy solids. So these are the differences of crystalline solids and amorphous solids. What is the difference? Here also there is a regular pattern, but here the pattern is not regular. And about this is anisotropic. Anisotropic means the thermal or electrical properties or the refractive index are different in different directions. But here it is isotropic, which means that its properties, its electrical properties, its thermal properties or refractive index, everything is same in all directions. So these are the difference between these crystalline solids and these amorphous solids. So we can summarize the difference between the crystalline solids and amorphous solids are they are having regular pattern, they are having external geometric shape and sharp melting point, and they are anisotropic. The examples for these crystalline solids are rice, sugar, quartz, diamond, rock salt, and some of the metals and the compound of that metals. But here amorphous or glassy, the normal window, it's amorphous type solids and it does not have any regular arrangement and the shape is not regular, also melting point is not defined. And it's isotropic, and also the examples are glass, cement, rubber, paraffin, plastic, etc. Okay. Then, now we are coming to see or going to see the elastic behavior of solids. All solids does not show elastic behavior, but some solids behave like elastic materials. So now we are going to study the elastic behavior of solids. We know in solid the atoms or molecules are surrounded by the neighboring atoms and molecules, and they are bound together by interatomic or intermolecular forces. And if there is any displacement, if you are applying any force to any of the atom or molecules, then the displacement of atom or molecules takes place, resulting the change in the equilibrium position of that solid. So it is equilibrium at certain minimum distance. The atoms or molecules are separated by a minimum distance and they are staying in equilibrium. Here, potential energy versus this atomic separation curve is here. This axis represents potential energy and this represents the atomic separation distance or atomic distance. And the potential energy were minimum. This is the point in which the potential energy is minimum, and this distance is known as R0 or it's known as nearest neighbor distance, which means each two atoms or two molecules are separated by a distance R0, then they are in equilibrium. So, if we stretch a solid or we compress a solid, what happens? The change in that nearest neighbor distance takes place. If we extend or we stretch the solid, what happens? That distance, nearest neighbor distance increases. So, and we remove the force or stretching force, what happens? It has the property to regains to its original position. If we stretching and removing the force, then it has the tendency to regain its original position. But when we compress the solid, if it is in equilibrium at this much distance R0 and we compress the material, what happens? The R0 distance decreases. So, when we removing the force, what happens? It regains its position by repulsive force. Repulsive force exists, it regains its original position by repulsion. So, the force is less than R0, repulsive force come into action, or it is greater than R0, the attractive force comes into play. And this is about the elastic behavior of solids. We can explain this behavior visually by using this springboard pattern. Here the spring represents the interatomic or intermolecular forces and this black dot represents atom or molecules, so that we know that the atoms or molecules are separated by a minimum distance and they are bound together by interatomic or intermolecular forces, and if it displaces any atom from its position, what happens? It's like a spring. So what happens? If we displace one atom and we remove that force, what happens? It regains its original position. Or we compress the molecule, then what happens? It again regains its original position. So this is about the elastic behavior of solids. So what is elasticity? Look at the diagram. Here a material, we are going to pressing the material. This is the original material and we are applying some force or pressing that material. So the pattern is like this. And we are removing the force or we remove the pressing, what happens? It regains its original position. This is what elasticity. So elasticity can be defined as it is the property of the material or body by virtue of which it tends to regain its original shape when the applied force is removed. When the applied force is removed, the body regains its original position, then we can say that it's an elastic material. So this is the property of elasticity. What about this? Here also a material, and we are applying some forces, so it will become like this, and if you are removing that force, what happens? It does not regain its original position. So this type of materials are known as plastic materials, and the property is known as plasticity. So plasticity we can define as the body which does not have the tendency to regain its original position when the applied force is removed. This type of material is known as plastic materials, and the property is known as plasticity. And now we are going to see some of the mechanical properties based on elasticity. We already discussed the intermolecular force. It is the force of attraction between the atoms or molecules in the neighboring area. And the deforming force, next is the deforming force. It is the force which changes the configuration of that body, or the applied force which gives the change in the configuration of body, that is the deforming force. And restoring force, this is an important term, restoring force. We are discussing about stress and strain, we deal with this term restoring force. And what is this restoring force? The restoring force is the opposing force, which means if you are applying some force on body and a restoring or opposing force that developed in that body, and it tend to play, and it tend the system to bring the body into its original configuration. So restoring force is important, and it is the force, opposing force, that tends to bring the body back to its original position, and it is the restoring force. And about perfectly elastic bodies, when the applying force or deforming force that is removed, it's immediately and completely moving back to regain its original position. That bodies are known as perfectly elastic bodies. The examples are important. The quartz and phosphorus bonds are examples for these perfectly elastic bodies. And about perfectly plastic bodies or plasticity are, they does not regain its original configuration after the removal of deforming force. That is perfectly plastic materials. And the examples are putty, paraffin, wax, etc. And this is about perfectly elastic and perfectly plastic. This regain its original position completely and immediately after the removal of force, but here it does not regain its position after the removal of deforming force. And now we are seeing stress. It's important. Stress. We already discussed that deforming force and also restoring force. Deforming force is the force that applied to change the configuration of the body, and the restoring force is the opposing force that generates in the body. Okay, and the stress, we can say that it is the restoring force per unit area. It is the internal restoring force acting per unit area, and we can define it as restoring force by area, and stress can be defined by a letter sigma is equal to F by A, and the unit of this force is, we know it's Newton, and for area it is meter squared, so its unit is Newton per meter squared, and the dimension also important, it's m L raised to minus 1 T raised to minus 2. There are different types of stress. So the stress can be classified as normal stress and shearing stress. Shearing stress also known as tangential stress. The normal stress again classified as longitudinal stress and volume stress. Volume stress is also known as bulk stress. And longitudinal stress again divided to tensile stress and compressive stress. What is the difference in these are? Here we are applying the longitudinal force, but here we are applying tangential force. The longitudinal force is applied, it's classified as longitudinal stress and volume stress. And longitudinal we can give either tensile or compression. So tensile stress and compressive stress. We can come to detail. And normal stress, It's the longitudinal or is the normal force or perpendicular force to the cross-sectional area. And due to this force, what happens? Its length or volume changes. The length changes, then it is known as longitudinal stress. The volume changes, then it is known as volumetric stress. If you are applying some force and the force per unit area, the restoring force per unit area, and the force is in the longitudinal direction, we can say that it's longitudinal stress, and it's along the volume, and we can say that it's volumetric stress. And the longitudinal stress again classified as tensile stress and compressive stress. In tensile stress, we are applying a force, we are extending. If a rod, consider a rod and we are extending. What happens? The length increases and the applying force is perpendicular to the cross-sectional area. The force is in this direction, cross-sectional area is perpendicular to that direction. So that this is tensile stress. This is the example. This is the rod and we are applying the force in, we are pulling out. We are pulling out. The force is in this direction, the cross-sectional area is in this direction. So this is perpendicular to this cross-sectional area. So the length changes here. Okay, coming to compressive stress, here pushing. Here pushing from both the sides. So here the decrease in length. This is compressive stress. And coming to this diagram, tensile stress we are stretching and compressive stress we are giving inward force. And this is the example, two boys are stretching, here they are pushing or squeezing. This is the compressive force. This we will see later. And in the case of bulk stress or volume stress, what happens? A body, a rectangular box, and we are applying the force in all the directions. All the directions we are applying the force, and the force is applied in a direction perpendicular to the cross-sectional area. Consider this area, we are applying force in this direction. This area, we are applying the force in this direction. So the area of cross-section and the force applying are perpendicular to each other. This is about volume stress. And about tangential stress, here the difference between longitudinal and tangential stress is, here we are applying the force parallelly or tangentially we are applying the force. This is about, here two beams, they are glued, and if you are giving the force in this direction and this direction, what happens? There is a deformation or a displacement in that body. We will see here, this is a rectangular body, and if you are giving a force in this area and this point, what happens? There is a displacement of this body takes place. There is a displacement of x in this body takes place, right? And this is the what known as tangential stress. Tangential stress means the force per unit area. Here the force acting on this area and this area. So this the tangential stress is tangential stress. We can say that it's also shear stress. Another name as shear stress. It's force by area. Force per unit area. Here force is in this direction, and we are applying this force. What happens? There is a displacement or a tilt in the angle. This is the angle and there is a tilt in the angle takes place. This is about shear stress or tangential stress. And about strain, this is another important term in mechanical properties of solids, and we already said we are applying a force, some displacement takes place in the configuration or change in the configuration of the body. Defined as the change in configuration to the original configuration, that is strain. So the ratio of change in configuration to the original configuration is called strain, and this have no units and also having no dimensions. And strains can be classified as longitudinal strain, volumetric strain and shearing strain. The longitudinal, coming to longitudinal strain, here a rod having length L and we are applying the force in opposite direction. What happens? The length increases. So the change in length is L plus delta L. So the change from this length is delta L. This is L and this is L plus delta L. So the change in length is delta L and original length is L. Then the longitudinal strain is the change in length, that is delta L by original length L. This is about longitudinal strain. And about volumetric strain, we said we are applying force in all the directions. So here we are applying force, here applying force, here applying force, here applying force. So initially the volume was V1, and after applying the force, the volume changes. So the final volume is V2. Therefore the change in volume is V1 minus V2 or delta V, and the original volume is V, and we can say that the volumetric strain is change in volume by original volume. And about shearing strain, here we know what about shearing stress, and if you are applying a shearing stress, that means if you are giving the force in the direction, this direction and this direction, so therefore a tilt in the angle takes place, and the shearing strain is defined as the angular displacement of the plane perpendicular to the surface, or it is the angle tilt produced in the body due to that stress. So we can define it as, it is the change in this displacement is delta x and the total length is L. So the volumetric strain is delta x by L, original length, the displacement by original length, delta x by L. Again, this is the original body after displacement. This is the tilt in the angle, and the stress is applied in this direction, so that this is the rest position, the change happened, this is the tilt happened, so this is strain happened. So strain is defined as, here same body, and after deforming force the displacement takes place, and shearing strain can be defined as, this is the displacement x and the original length is x. So shear strain is x by h, and shearing stress is F11 by A. Here applying force is F11 by A, area of cross section of that side. And the question, glass is more elastic than rubber. Why? From these studies we know that here the strain is less in glass, so that glass is more elastic than rubber. From the study, the strain or elasticity, it is defined in another form, that it is the tendency to oppose the change in shape and size. So here, which having more tendency, glass or rubber? Glass having more tendency to oppose. So the elastic property is more for this glass. And about an activity, find out which is more elastic, steel or rubber. Okay, this is the end of this section, and hope you all enjoyed. And dear students, study all these topics before coming to next class. Till then, take care. Bye.